These sports betting companies should be avoided at all costs because, quite frankly, using them could cost you a fortune, or at the very least, waste weeks of your life. They do their best to hide what's going on, so I'm going to expose it. So in no particular order, Skybet are earning themselves a terrible reputation right now for multiple reasons. They're probably the worst sports betting company that I can think of. For context, so I can explain, just look at this email that they sent one of you guys, their customer. In short, they've accused the account holder of fraud and cheating because an in-play bet was placed within 10 seconds of a goal being scored. The email threatens to report the customer's details to the police and that they may be liable for all losses, liabilities, damages, costs and expenses that they incur, presumably meaning that if they should go to court. It's all written in their terms and conditions. The quoted terms also say that they can withhold all of the account holder's winnings at their own discretion, which is something that has cost multiple Skybet users a fortune over the last year because it's a term that has been used in multiple situations, many of which aren't fair or right. In this case, they refunded the customer's £500 deposit, closed the account and refused to respond further. Now, if you think that was reasonable from Skybet, check out the direct contradiction shared by one of you guys too. It appears taking money on a bet that's already been decided a full 3 minutes after it happened isn't treated the same way, despite it being the total opposite and worse. But there's more, because this isn't the only reason to avoid Skybet like the plague. Aside from banning winners and holding withdrawals, Skybet have got some extreme digital surveillance going on. Previously, an investigation by Crack Labs uncovered that 2,154 transmissions of data had been made to 44 different digital surveillance companies by just 37 visits to their website. They're literally spying on their customers' every move and then using the information to exploit losers and restrict winners. Whatever you do, don't send them your bank statements, even if they say it's for regulatory reasons. If you do, there's a strong chance they'll use them to avoid paying out and attempt to link you with other betting accounts. It's outrageous, but for some people, they've even requested the bank statements of people that have previously sent them money. Worst case, it may cost you your entire account balance, including your winnings, and best case, it will lead to weeks of emails and questions wasting your time, which leads me on to sports betting company number 2. Being a betting exchange and not a bookmaker, Smartbet have a better reputation than most. Although I've seen a lot of complaints about their document checking processes over the last year. To illustrate, I'll share a recent example that was sent in. The customer had deposited £170 and withdrawn £278 in the last 12 months, putting them £108 in profit. They barely used the account, but last month they deposited and bet £50. After the bet was settled, they received this email. Despite being a customer for years, Smartbet claimed that they needed to check the source of funds, proof of wealth, and for social responsibility in line with the £50 bet that they had placed. Now think about that for a second. How someone is money laundering or suffering from gambling addiction over 50 quid is pretty far-fetched, especially when you consider the account was profitable, but still the customer complied, submitting proof of their 6-figure salary in the process. But after perusing the customer's bank statements, they continued to hold the account while asking questions about transactions that were made after they had placed the bet. Clearly, this is completely unjustifiable and totally ridiculous, wasting a huge amount of the customer's time in the process. But this is not the only problem with Smartbet. For those that are unaware, Smartbet is marketed as a betting exchange, meaning that unlike a bookmaker, customers log in to bet against each other. The house isn't involved, so prices are good and the playing field is fair. However, this isn't exactly true. Smartbet are also betting on their own platform as a third party. Some of you guys have complained the bets have been voided and business rejected, presumably because you're beating them at their own game. For me, this makes them one to avoid. Although number 3 on the list is undoubtedly far worse. Unibet has got a long history of refusing withdrawals and confiscating winnings. Aside from William Hill and Skybet, they're one of the worst companies for it. I know barely anyone does, but if you read their terms and conditions, you'll see how ridiculous this has become. If we look at the wording in section 16 alone, titled fraud and cheating, Just about anything and everything qualifies. For example, if someone has transferred money to your bank account, if you've bet on the same selection as someone else, or followed a tipster, if you've used software of any kind to make winning betting decisions, or if someone you know has given you a heads up. But of course, this doesn't seem to extend to their sponsors. Sadly, like many of the problems that I'm highlighting here, you only find out how bad Unibet are on a one-to-one basis via email after your money has been confiscated and the winnings withheld. They act as judge, jury and executioner from Gibraltar, so there's not much that you can do about it either. Complaints and follow-up emails lead to a massive waste of time and are often ignored. Personally, my advice is to avoid them at all costs. It will save you a lot of time and money unless you're a consistent loser, in which case they'll probably never even get in touch. In my personal opinion, these last 4 are a must avoid for varying reasons. Paddy Power certainly aren't alone in their filthy behaviour on multiple issues. Recently, they appeared on my timeline for settling a winning bet as a loser. It's not the first time that this has happened either, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Firms are happy to point the finger at Opta and hide behind terms and conditions when there's a chance to avoid paying out the bet. Flutter companies like Paddy Power and Skybet tend to be the worst for this. Looking at social media, it really stresses out football fans. There's a steady ream of outrageous complaints about Paddy Power, more than I can even list. It appears their strategy is to crack a joke and then just keep on going. The company has got little regard for the vulnerable, as it landed themselves a £490,000 fine last year as they sent push notifications to addicts who had specifically asked to be self-excluded. All in all, they're definitely one to avoid. Their sports betting odds are usually terrible too, unlike the next company on our list, because typically they've got really good prices. It's just a shame that nobody can bet on them for long. Now, the broader audience is always baffled by this one, so I'll explain briefly. You see, there's only one way to beat a sportsbook or bookmaker, by betting on odds that are higher than their true probability. In the short term, results will be mixed because, quite honestly, nobody can predict the future. But over the long term, getting bigger odds means guaranteed profit. It's a mathematically proven strategy known as positive expected value betting. However, Bet365 pioneered the way into stake restrictions, which means that if you regularly bet a value odds, they will stake restrict your betting account, just like this here on the screen. It's a you can look but you can't touch situation. To the masses, they've got the best odds, but in reality, you just can't get them for long at all. But there's not much we can do other than avoid using them or use a betting exchange or sharp betting brand if you can get access. One way savvy punters have got around these betting restrictions is to open multiple betting accounts via family or friends. However, with the companies in charge of checking bank statements, it's just given them another way to link accounts. But don't panic, tipping off your pals isn't a crime. It's believed that there is a lot more fraud to this case than having a few betting accounts, unlike the next couple of examples. Ladbrokes Coral is a must avoid this year for many of the reasons already listed. They behave in a similar fashion, trawling CCTV, asking questions and tracking customer details in shop. In some cases, employees claim that they've been told to note down car registrations and even the clothes that the customers are wearing. But that's not the worst bit. They also have a long history of failing to honour bets, like this £8,000 win, this multiple, and this long shot, not to mention the special accumulator they even advertised in the newspaper. It happens over and over again. They're quick to advertise the chance to win, but even quicker to hide behind terms and conditions, corporate lawyers, and low paid staff. Save yourself some time and a whole load of money and give them a massive swerve. Now, finally, the absolute worst of a bad bunch. Because William Hill is the sports betting company I get contacted about the most. Some of the problems I hear about are beyond belief. From voiding bets to changing the odds after it's won, there's never a dull moment. However, there's often a common theme. They get to keep the money. They too have been using document checks to stop withdrawals, and in one case, one of you guys sent me the details of a request for depositing just £20. But it gets worse because in shop, they don't always do the harm checks on bets over £2,000. Instead, they do the checks after the bet has won more than £10,000. See all the details and full story in this next video here in the end screen. It's intense.